Okay, got the recording going. All right, it is 7:05. Oh, there's Elizabeth. Let her get settled. We'll go ahead and get started. All right, Elizabeth, are
Hello.
you all set?
Jaren, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Oh, never mind. Now I can.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
Sounds good. You all set?
I'm good. Yeah.
All righty, so let's get started. I should be recording this. Yeah, it's
Yeah, it
recording,
says
so
recording at
I
the
think we're
top
all
of my
set.
screen.
All
Okay.
righty. Okay, now, there we go. All right. Okay, so this is going to be the main agenda. We'll start with kind of finding a race and kind of what to look for. Then we'll move on to like registration. And then the big chunk is going to be what gear to use in approaching race day. And then I guess race day too. So those are the three main important sections. So we'll start off with finding a race featuring uh, mainly Francisco there.
Yeah.
So first off, what distances? So I think that there's probably five main distances. I'm sure that there's stuff in between. Um, but starts the shortest super sprint. That's about, I think about a quarter mile swim, and then a 10 kilometer bike. So that's about 6.2 miles, and then a 2.5 kilometer run. So that's about 1.5, 1.6 miles. Um, Sprint is double that. Olympic is double the sprint. Um, and then half iron and Ironmans, those are a lot longer. A half iron is about, I think,
So
1.2 mile
1.6. Yeah.
swim, a 56-mile bike, and then a half marathon. And then an Ironman's double that. Kind of obvious because that's a half iron and an Ironman. So a more type of decision that you need to figure out is mostly the race variant. Draft legal illegal just means what type of bike you're allowed. So most triathlons, duathlons, aqua bikes, most of those at the age group level are all going to be draft illegal, which just means you're not supposed to draft. Um, it's really only once you start getting into more professional races that they become draft legal. So you don't really need to worry about that, but it's always something to check um, if you have a bike that you're not allowed to draft on. Um, and then there's a bunch of different race variants. I have some listed here. There's obviously the main triathlon, and then duathlon, which is just running and biking, aqua biking, which is swimming and biking. Paddle try is like, I think instead of swimming, you like kayak or paddleboard or something. And then there's obviously more, like we have gravel try and beer try down here. Not entirely sure what those are. I've
A beer try
roughly heard
is
of
something that
them.
a beer try is something that I made up. So I put it on there for humor. You'd chug a beer between each leg, but I would not recommend.
Yeah, no, you probably start feeling pretty sick after the end. But I mean, I guess there's only three legs, so you probably, anyways.
Yeah.
There's Point is there's lots of different variations. So kind of have one in mind when you're signing up for a race. Um, so the three main places that I would say to look for races are USA Triathlon website. So over here in the bottom left, I have a screenshot from the website where you can kind of type in your zip code and then all the drop down menus and find races in your area. Another one that I'd probably recommend above that, so I probably should have moved those around, but just ask like experienced racers. So that'd be someone like me because I've been racing for about 8 years now, or other people experienced in the club, or um, I know some older people that have been doing it for like 30, 40 years now, so they know a lot of the good races. So really good to ask for good race recommendations from them. And then obviously just Google. You can find a lot of things on there. Anything to add, Elizabeth?
Um, I guess if you're like wanting to qualify for like a certain if you're wanting to qualify for nationals or other things, you want to make sure that it's like USAT certified.
Yeah.
Um, I think most of them are, but just good to double check. Um,
Yeah. And as
so
far
like
as like the
ones that
USAT certified ones, all the ones on the USAT website are going to be certified. Um,
there's some that are USAT like officiated, and but that doesn't not mean that they're. And then the ones that aren't USAT officiated doesn't mean that they're not certified, but
yeah.
I would just double check that if you're wanting to qualify for like higher level stuff.
Yep. So here's a list of races this year. Obviously, a few of us are going to be doing Beaver Freezer. That's coming up like in a week and a half, so that's really, really soon. And then I've personally done probably at least half of these. Um, Definitely say PDX Tri, Lake Whatcom, Hag Lake, Columbia River, Best in the West. Those are all really good ones. I've done all of those. The other ones I personally haven't done, but I've heard good recommendations from those. I don't know which ones Elizabeth have done, but
Yeah, I've done Lake Whatcom, Columbia River, and Best in the West. If you're like just getting into it, honestly, I would not do Columbia River as your first one unless you're doing a sprint because it starts swimming upriver, which is absolutely horrendous. Like I almost threw up last year. I was like swimming and I was like so disoriented and it was so hard to stay on track. So if you haven't open water swim before, I would not recommend Columbia River Try as your first one. If you're more
that
experienced, then totally go for it. But
that
um,
being said, if you're planning on doing a sprint try, it is probably one of the best ones to
that's
do
true.
because for sprint distance, the swim is all downriver. So and it's a completely flat bike course and flat run course. So as far as like a sprint try and also a super sprint, because I think the super sprint only goes downriver too.
Mhm.
Um, those are really great ones, really great starter one. I think that's down in Vancouver, Washington,
Yeah.
in August. Oh, I have it right there. I don't know why
Yeah.
I'm thinking on my head. Yeah, it's in August. But yeah, the super sprint and the sprint are really great ones for the Columbia River. The Olympic, that one is rough. I've done the sprint and the Olympic ones at that race, and the Olympic is pretty rough. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I'd recommend yeah, Lake Whatcom is nice. The bike is a little bit hilly. Um like usually a tri like bike course is super flat. I think there was like I don't remember what it was. It was like over 1,000 feet of elevation gain, which isn't like terrible, but it's usually for Lake Whatcom, but it's not like what a normal tri would be, I guess. Or it's
Yeah,
not yeah.
I did the sprint, and the sprint wasn't too bad. It was just some rollers.
Okay.
But I know the Olympic was a lot worse.
hmm And if
So
you're really interested in doing something with the team, this picture here is of the team at Best in the West last year, and so we make a big like weekend trip out of it. We go down on Friday, and then we race on Saturday, and then volunteer on Sunday. And if we volunteer, you get like free campsites. You don't have to pay for like housing or anything. You don't have to pay your race fee because the club reimburses it. So literally for that trip, all that you have to pay for is food and like some gas money, and that's it. So I would highly recommend Best in the West if you're interested.
yeah, Best in the West is a really, really good race. It's one of my favorites, and I will be doing that one this year. So okay, featuring me and then my dog. Kind of when, where, and how to sign up for races. So kind of we mentioned it earlier, but what is USAT? So that's as I said earlier, it's USA Triathlon, and that's kind of the overarching um, program that the USA runs. So like Elizabeth mentioned earlier, there's a few ways you can qualify for nationals, age group nationals, not like pro or whatever. So this is me from I think this year at nationals, and I think anyways when you race USAT sanctioned events, you get a ranking, and if you do good enough, you qualify for nationals. Um, and then yeah, most races that are USAT sanctioned, you need to have a USAT membership or purchase a day pass. So I have here that the annual pass is $40 per year. I have no idea what the day pass costs. But that would be something that you would just when you're registering for a race, it'll ask if it is USAT sanctioned. It'll be like, are you a USAT member? If so, you type in your member number. If not, you have to like select a button. Then like an extra little fee is added on at the end, so you can purchase a day pass. Okay.
I wait,
So
can you go back? I
yeah,
got ranked after 2 races in a year.
yeah. So there's two kind of ways to get to qualify for nationals. One is you compete in 3 races and have a high enough ranking. Um, so like there's a bunch on the USAT website on this. But then if you're in high enough ranking, which is like top like 20 or 30% of the people that are ranked, then you qualify, or you can just do good enough in one race and qualify. But specifically for ranking, you have to do 3 races to get like an official ranking. You
Okay.
can still find your rank number if you only do like 1 or 2 races, but it's
Okay.
not like an official one that will qualify you on its own. You'd have to like do good enough in a race.
Yeah.
Um,
I only did 2 races last summer, but I still qualified, so
Yeah, so you probably just like it's just if you do good enough and in your age group, then it's really easy to qualify. And especially in our age group, there's really not that many people competing. So it's like the top like 1 through 3 or something in each age group, and like half the time there's not that many. Sometimes there is, sometimes there's like 5 or 6 in our age group, but then other times there's like 2 people. So some races are easier to qualify for than others. Okay. Where to sign up? I'd say definitely just go to the race website. There's a big registration button. It moves around depending on the race, but it's pretty easy to find. Um, you
do
can
not
also sign up on race day, but
do not do that.
yeah, no, it is.
It's stressful.
Yeah, it's stressful. It costs more money. Some people do it just because they're like, I wasn't planning on racing, and then decide like the night before, like, oh shoot, I'm free tomorrow. I guess I'll go race. So if you really want to race, it's an option. Definitely recommend registering ahead of time on the website. When to sign up? Like I said, sooner the better. If you know you want to do a race, sign up for it. Waiting is just gonna um, waiting is just gonna have the fee go up. I think it's every few months it goes up by like $10, $15, which isn't that much, but might as well pay for it when it's cheaper, you know? Basically, there's this side. So here are the main steps of signing up. Go to the website, select the type of race and distance. Um, so we talked about that earlier, so that's all of those things. And then you're going to fill out all your personal information. A lot of times it'll ask for emergency contacts. Um, Definitely important to have. I know I crashed. I crashed last summer, so mom was not happy about that one. Um, and then, like I explained earlier, the USAT sanctioned events, you're gonna have to do your put your membership number in or select the day pass, and then check out at the very end, and then you should be all set for the thing. Occasionally, some races will have like extra things that you can get. So, like sometimes I know Hag Lake usually has like a $7 parking pass that you either need to buy ahead of time or get day of. So sometimes it'll have things like that. Um, yeah. Anything to add about that, Elizabeth?
I guess for like parking passes and stuff, if you pick up your packet like the day before, usually that's when they'll do parking. I've never or I haven't seen one yet where you have to buy a parking pass on the sign up, but it's probably like on the website if you want, if you're like really into it. But we can
Yeah.
touch on that later, like the morning of. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Or
know.
day of.
I guess I'll get to it later, but I usually drive down like morning of. So, I have to like do packet pickup in the morning, and so usually the parking passes are in that, or they just have them in the parking lot. Like you
Yeah.
have to show a receipt that you have one or pay for one there. Okay, so now getting on to kind of the important section, because this is kind of daunting when you're first starting. Um, so for swim, I think this is a photo again at Best in the West. Obviously, you need goggles, something to swim in. Every single race that I've done, except for like one really weird one that was like a pool swim, you get a swim cap. So I usually bring an extra swim cap just in case, but every single one on the list that we mentioned earlier should give you a swim cap because that denotes like what wave you're starting in. So you have to wear that swim cap. Um, and then I put an asterisk next to a wetsuit. It's good to have, especially living in Washington because the water's very cold. You don't need it. Some people don't swim in wetsuits. Sometimes gets very cold. Other races, it's totally fine to do. Um, but
I would
yeah,
bring one, even if you don't think you're gonna need it, like just in case. Like I didn't wear one for the Columbia River Try, and I was totally fine. And um, Best in the West, the water temp the night before was like pretty warm, and then the morning of they had like opened this dam, and a huge like flow of cold water came in, and I that water was so cold.
it was so cold.
I don't remember how much it was. It was
I
like
think it was like
it was like
it
60.
went down like 10 degrees or something because I think it was like
Yeah,
70 when or like maybe it was like 74 the night before, and then we get there in the morning and it was like, yeah, it's like 63 degrees right now.
and that doesn't
Sorry
sound.
about that.
Yeah, and if you're thinking about air temperature, like 63 degrees is fine. In the water, that's
It is
horrendous. I
freezing.
jumped in
So
and I was like, regret. I was like, what have I got myself into? So just bring a wetsuit, like in case you need one. And I
yeah.
know like the team has some that you can borrow. Um, Chances are like not everyone's going to race every event this summer. So if you want to borrow one, I have one. I think people will be willing to let you borrow.
Yeah, for sure.
And some races you can rent them out too, but
Yeah, I think that's usually, I think it's probably about 50-50 if there's going to be a place to rent wetsuits. Or maybe actually there might be more. Um,
there's one at Best of
but
the West, but I don't. But other than that, I'm not entirely sure.
yeah, I think I definitely know a lot of the Y racing events and Best in the West have wet. Anyways, that's besides the point. Definitely bring a wetsuit if you have one or can borrow one. It's always a good idea, even if you don't use it.
Better to
Okay,
have
moving
it
on to
and not need it
bike.
than need it and not have it.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously you need a bike. Um, that's pretty important. Would not want to run the whole bike course.
Mm.
You'd probably get kicked off the course because you're taking too long. Yeah, definitely bring a bike. That's really, really important. And then also really important, helmet and shoes. Um, those are self-explanatory as well. Um, the ones that have asterisks are you don't need them. Sometimes they're good to have. Sometimes, well, I don't race in socks. A lot of other people do, but I'm very competitive when it comes to racing, and I need to make up transition time. So I don't bother with socks. I just put like little things of KT tape or whatever on the insides of my feet. Call that good, so I don't get super big blisters. But socks are good to have if you think you're gonna want them. I always recommend biking with sunglasses or some sort of eye protection. You never know when you're gonna run into a bug, and those are really, really painful when you're going, I mean, even 10, 15 miles an hour, hit a bug, and that's not fun, especially if it's like a bee. It's not ideal. So eye protection, eye protection, eye protection. Also good to have water bottle. Again, not needed, but good idea to have just anytime you're biking. Um, Also, same thing with equipment to change a tire. Um, on a race course, usually they're going to have volunteers pretty frequently, so you could flag one down and get help with your bike if you need it. But just in general, it's good to have equipment to work on your bike if you need it. So you never know when a flat's going to happen. Other stuff like that. Okay, run's a little bit easier. Um, you're gonna get a race bib in your packet pickup. So you either need a shirt or a bib belt like I have here. It's a belt that goes around my waist. Those are good to have. That way you don't have to like stick on a whole shirt, but otherwise you need a shirt that you can clip or something that you can clip your race bib onto. And then running shoes, and then obviously positive mindset. At this point in the race, you're gonna really be struggling. Like this race, I was happy. I mean, the first picture, I was happy. Second picture, I was not feeling it. It was a rough day. Yeah. And then food as well. So banana for
I'm
Elizabeth.
team banana. Yeah. I know it's like yeah, I think it's important yeah to fuel and hydrate like throughout. And so if you have something at transition and you can just like grab it and then you can eat while you run, make sure it's something like that's not going to upset your stomach too much. You can also do that on the bike. I personally am not as comfortable biking as I am running, so I choose to um, you know, I choose to because I don't like taking my hands off the handlebars that often if I don't need to. So I choose to refuel like right at the beginning of the run, but that's up to you.
Yeah. Another option is also doing it during transition, which I think will be the next slide. But
I do that too.
yeah, so usually I guess I won't go off on a tangent right now because I'll get to that in a little bit when I talk about transition. So what to bring for the transition area. So you're gonna need a bag or a bucket of some sort, really just something to carry all your stuff in, because you're gonna be carrying a decent amount of gear plus your bike into transition. So just some sort of bag or bucket. Some people use like 5 gallon buckets from Home Depot. I've seen those quite frequently, or trash bags, really whatever works. You're gonna need at least one towel to not to dry yourself off, but kind of mark out your space in transition, kind of put it as a base. I guess that's not necessarily needed, but it's really helpful in my opinion. Um, and then if you're gonna want a towel to dry off after the swim, which you're gonna dry off on the bike anyway, so I don't ever bring an extra towel, but you could bring one, stick it in transition if you want it. And then not required, but another water bottle set in your transition area, and then some sort of fuel. So, like put a banana, like was in the last slide, or some sort of like gel or gummies of some sort. Whatever you train with, it's not good to practice something like use something that you've never tried before, because that's a great way to end up puking on the side of the course. So yeah, I don't, do you have anything else to add for transition area? I think I have other gear on the next slide.
Yeah, I've never. Yeah, I think I've only ever brought like one towel just to like mark my area so that right
Yeah,
because people if you don't like mark it with a towel of some sort, people like will like start encroaching on it and it's not nice, but that's just what happens. So I've only ever brought one for that purpose, but I guess if you want like a second one to like if you're gonna dry off afterwards, I wouldn't recommend drying in the transition area because like you're just gonna get on your bike anyways.
yeah,
Um, so like and that eats up a lot of transition time. But I guess you're gonna bring a second towel, just stick it in your bag or like save it for after in your car or something.
yeah, for sure. All right. Other items. So kind of for before and after the race. If you have a bike pump, it's really good to have it because you never know when. I mean, it's always good to top up your tires right before a race. Um, or if you don't have one, I'm sure you can probably borrow one from someone or use someone's. So like I'll be bringing my pump down to Beaver Freezer this year. So um, yeah, and then slide-on shoes are really great, especially going in and out of transition because you're gonna have your running shoes and your biking shoes um, in transition, so you can't really wear those all the time. And it's good to have like slides or flip-flops or something, going down to the water. Um, Good to have. Uh, Warm clothes, a lot of times you're gonna get there at like 6, maybe 7 at the latest in the morning. So usually pretty cold still. So whatever clothes you think you're gonna need to stay warm, that's really, really important. If you have long hair, definitely bring hairbrush and hair ties or do your hair before you come. Definitely, definitely a need to do. Because long wet hair is not fun to deal with when you're biking because it like gets everywhere, and just in general. So yeah,
I'm a big fan of
body
braids.
glide, body glide is so amazing. I highly recommend getting some, or borrowing someone from somebody if you need it. But like it is a lifesaver in so many ways, like especially like getting on and off your wetsuit, um, avoiding blisters, avoiding chafing. Just it is like all uses, highly recommend. Um, and then you're gonna need your ID for packet pickup. So usually you should have your ID on you anyways, but just make sure to have it with you. Um, and then, I mean, always try to bring your mom. You know, they want to see the race. I think my mom's gonna come to Beaver Freezer this year, so she'll be there. But not required, but good to have, you know. Is there anything else we missed on like what gear to bring, Elizabeth?
I don't think so. For long hair, I'm a big fan of braids because it stays in place in the swim
Yeah,
cap when you take it off.
braids are great, yeah.
Yeah.
And it can fit under your bike helmet too.
Yeah.
Buns
Yeah.
you'd have to take out and redo in transition and stuff. And ponies,
Yeah, this won't fit under a bike helmet. Like,
yeah, you'd have to have a low pony and that'd be rough to stick in a swim cap anyway. So braids are the way to go. So approaching race day. So this is kind of as the race gets closer, you're already registered. What do you need to do? So obvious things. You need to add the race to the calendar. It really suck to like pay for a race and then realize you forgot to show up. That'd be really disappointing, at least in my opinion. Um, Also, no brainer train. These are, I mean, even the super sprint is going to take you like minimum 30 minutes if you're really, really fast. So, like, these are long races. So, you really need to train, otherwise, you're going to be in a lot of pain. Um, yeah, got to plan transportation and overnight stays. Unfortunately, in Washington, there aren't too many races that are super close by, so you've got to go up to Bellingham or down to the Portland area. For a lot of the races, there are some like the Lake Wilderness that's
Seafair's in
over in Maine.
Sammamish. It's pretty close.
What?
Seafair's in Sammamish. It's pretty
Oh
close.
yeah, I forgot about that one. I haven't done
Yeah.
that one. But those two are pretty close, but most of the other ones are decently far away. I guess the Bonnie Lake isn't that far, but a good proportion of them are relatively far away. So you need to plan transportation and overnight stays, or just plan on getting up really early in the morning and driving. I do that most of the time, but makes for an early morning. Then obviously, if you have Strava, put it on Strava. Everybody wants to see your race, you know, just
If it's
good to
not on
do.
Strava, it didn't happen.
Exactly.
You
What
should
more can be
train.
said? What more can be said? Okay, so not as obvious things. Definitely highly recommend making a checklist of gear. The night before, at the minimum, usually I try to do it like the week before, or I just have one. Like I have mine from that I wrote at the beginning of last summer that I just kind of used for all of my races. But you got to bring like so many like different things that it's like just great to have to like make sure you have everything in your car or whatever you're taking down. 'Cause you'd hate to show up to race day and be like, oh shoot, my goggles were on my desk and I forgot to put them in my bag. Um, Definitely, I've forgotten a lot of things at races, so recommend making a list. You need to plan packet pickup because there's certain windows you need to do it. Um, you can either do it the day before. That's probably they recommend that, but a lot of the times I go down morning of, so I just pick it up in the morning. Either way, I feel like it's pretty easy. Um, uh, yeah, you definitely need to plan your nutrition and hydration. Um, at least have things, know what you're going to be doing. Because otherwise, especially the longer races you do, you're going to start feeling really, really crappy if you don't kind of know what you're going to be, how you're going to be feeling yourself, because you will run out of calories very, very quickly. Um, kind of coupled with that, you need to plan your breakfast, especially post-race food, not as important. You can kind of play that by ear, but breakfast for sure. Sometimes I'll eat in the parking lot before going and picking up my packet in the morning. Um, that's what I'm going to be doing for Beaver Freezer because I think I'm going to leave Olympia at like 3 to 3:30 in the morning. And that is like 5 hours minimum before the first wave goes. And that's like if I'm in the first wave. So I've done 5 hours. I've eaten 5 hours before a race. It went really, really bad. So recommend eating probably 1 to 3 hours before you race. You know your body, so listen to it, but definitely want to have a good filling breakfast. And then I guess not as obvious, but I feel like it's pretty obvious. Have fun. Like you're doing this for fun. At least you should be doing this for fun. Um, I hope nobody's forcing you. Yeah, obviously Jamie's here having fun. What race is that at?
It's someone in Colorado. She's in Boulder, I
Oh,
think. I don't remember. She did several this summer, but I don't remember which one it is.
yeah, I was like, I don't recognize that race. Where was that one from?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very fun.
Yeah, I think the only
Um,
thing I have to add for this one is like for packet pickup, like if I like to do it the day before, so I usually like will stay overnight and then do it the day before, or just leave super, super early so that I'm there at least like 2 hours before the start.
yeah, for sure.
So like make sure like account for enough time to like get a little lost, like find parking. Um, there will probably be a line, so you want to make sure to like get there early, like more time than you think.
Yeah, usually on the race website, it should say when packet pickup opens in the morning, or when transition opens.
Hmm.
I usually aim to be there within the first half hour of it opening.
Yeah.
Usually that works out pretty well because then you can get everything set up and have time for your warm up, without having too much stress. Not everybody does that. I know, um, at a my old cross country coach who does a lot of triathlons and stuff, he'd usually show up like an hour before the race started. Um, but so it's kind of personal preference. I recommend getting there like within the first half hour of transition and opening, but yeah, definitely on the first time you do it, it's better to get there early so you can kind of have time to figure everything out. Once you do it a lot more, you can kind of narrow down how much time specifically you need. But for your first or second time, definitely recommend getting there earlier than you think you're gonna need. So for race day, so pre-race, make sure to set your alarms. Waking up is really important. Like we just talked about, eat a good breakfast and show up. Um, and then go to packet pickup. That's pretty easy. You just find the tent that says packet pickup, and then wait in line if there is a line, and then they'll just ask for your name and your ID, and then you'll hand you your packet and usually your race shirt too, and sometimes a goodie bag or whatnot with a bunch of random stuff and flyers in it. But you'll get that at packet pickup pretty easy. And if you feel any stress, there's going to be a lot of other people that know what they're doing all the way around you. So just ask the nearest person. You should be well off if you do that. So for setting up, in your packet, you're gonna have like a little envelope that has your race bib, thing of stickers, probably your swim cap. Though that the swim cap might not be in your race packet, but I mean the little envelope. Your timing chip will probably be in that little envelope. So those are all really important things that you need to notice. So you can see on Elizabeth's bike, she has a bike sticker. You can either do it on the post there or um, vertically on the post above your seat. Depends on what you have on your bike. Um, and again, if you have any questions on where stickers or anything goes, just ask all the people around you. Um, and then also very important, place your timing chip on your left ankle. Like that is, they always stress it so much, it has to be your left ankle. Um, I don't particularly know why, but it's always the left ankle. So just keep that in mind. They say it like 20 times, so you won't forget it. But and then you're going to go to body marking. That's going to be right outside transition, which will be really easy to see because there'll be a line of people and a bunch of volunteers with Sharpies. Um, so you can go get in that line, get your body marked. It's different depending on each race. Usually it's like race number on both like upper arms and then what race you're doing and your age on your calves. Sometimes it's different. Most of the time that's what it is, but that one you'll just wait in line and then they'll mark it for you. Um, After that, you're gonna enter transition, find your bike spot. So some races it's kind of a free for all, just kind of your general section, place your bike wherever. Other ones, your bike is gonna have a specific spot based on your bib number. Um, Again, there should be clear signs and volunteers in transition, as well as other athletes who know what they're doing. So make sure to ask questions. And then set up transition area. I think that's the next slide. We'll go really into the transition area. So for transition area, this is a picture I took over spring break. It's kind of a rough transition area. So you're gonna fold the towel kind of small as you can get it, and then fit all your stuff on it. It's better if you have a colorful towel, so that way you can just see it. Otherwise, it kind of looks like any other towel. But you're gonna place all your equipment. So, like in this picture here, I've got my running shoes in the back with my race bib belt. I don't have a race bib on it right now because I don't have any race bibs that I'm doing yet. So, and then I have a water bottle, my biking shoes, my helmet upside down, really key. You want to have your helmet like just really quickly stick it on your head. And then inside my helmet, I have my sunglasses. It's really hard to see, but you can kind of see the glint on the sunglasses. That's usually all I have in my transition area. Sometimes I have a gel pack, other times I have those like tapes to my bike um, or some other fuel in my transition area. But that's roughly what my transition area is going to look like. So definitely recommend having your bike stuff towards the front, your running stuff towards the back because you're going to do your bike first. Um,
I usually stick
and
my water
really,
bottle. Oh, sorry.
what?
I usually stick my water bottle instead of like in there in my water bottle cage like already, so that it's just ready to
Oh
go.
yeah, no, this was just an example. Like sometimes, usually I have like two water bottles. I have one in my bike cage and then one in my transition area just in
Okay,
case. Like sometimes usually I'll run out of finish my water bottle on the bike course. So like once by the time I get back to transition after the bike, I want to take like a little bit of water, with some electrolytes and stuff.
fair
So
enough.
it's good to have an extra water bottle in your transition area just in case. Not required. I usually do it. Sometimes I don't use it at all. So that's kind of a better to have, but not needed. Um, and
I
then
have
really,
I have
really
a quick
important.
question.
Sorry, yeah,
Sorry
go
to
ahead.
interrupt. Yeah. So there's two different sets of shoes, like one for biking, one for running.
So that's because I have like bike clips on my bike. So yeah, sorry, thanks for asking the question. I should have explained that. So yeah, if you just are gonna be like if you don't have bike clips, just throw on your running shoes. That's definitely the best bet. But for anybody that has any sort of bike clips on their bike, um, you're going to want to have two pairs of shoes because it's really uncomfortable to bike in tennis shoes with bike clips. Yeah, thanks for the question. So yeah, if you don't have bike clips, you'll just have your running shoes there. But again, stick your helmet on top of them. But yeah, and then really, really important, remember where your bike is. Sometimes transition areas are really big with lots of things everywhere. So before your race starts, make sure to just remember what section your bike is in, kind of the quickest way to get to it. And yeah. And then getting ready to start. Obviously, you're going to need to warm up a little bit. I guess you don't need to. I highly recommend to avoid injuries. Warming up is super, super important. Also really important, knowing when your wave starts. You'll figure out what wave you're in. If not before race day, when you pick up your packet. So knowing when your wave is going to start, which there should be sheets of when the waves are going to start, as well as again ask any volunteer or other athletes. Also really important, know the transition layout. Usually, you're gonna when you get out of the swim, you're gonna run up some sort of chute, enter a transition in one corner. The bike exit is going to be on the other corner. And then coming in from the bike, usually it's the same corner that you exited out of. And then the run exit is at the other corner. It's not always like that. So I would definitely pay attention to where the entrances and exits of transition are, kind of map out how you're going to get to your bike, how you're going to run in and out of transition, all of those things. There should be big transition maps, probably by the registration packet pickup tent. Same thing with the course maps. There should be, if not big signs of the course maps, there should be little sheets of the course maps. And I think usually the course maps are also online, so check those out before race day so you kind of know what's expected. And then as time is getting closer, go towards the starting point. Usually there's pre-race announcements kind of going over which way to turn around the buoys. So we'll get into that once we get into like the race, like actual racing section. And yeah, again, don't be afraid to ask questions and please use the bathroom. You don't want to be in the middle of a bike ride and be like, oh no, it is not a great feeling. Yeah, highly recommend using the bathroom.
Bike's better than run, but still, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Okay, now during the race. I just mentioned it, but listen to the pre-race instructions. For the open water swim, there's going to be big buoys. Usually, I think they're orange and yellow, depending on what their meaning is. So you can kind of see them circled down here at the bottom. They'll explain what each of the buoys means. Usually, one color is going to be for straightaways, one color is going to be for turns. And then you're going to keep them on one side of your body at all times. That'll just be something you'll have to listen to in the pre-race instructions because it changes every race. Yeah, don't get stuck in wetsuit. The first race I did in a wetsuit, I took my cap and goggles off before taking off my wetsuit, and my arm got stuck for like 5 minutes. Do not recommend. It hasn't happened since, but do your best to not get stuck because that eats up a lot of time if you get stuck. Also really important, follow traffic laws. They'll mention that in the pre-race instructions, but don't go over the median. Yeah, some of the races are closed courses. There shouldn't be any cars. Other races, it will be open, but it'll be like minimal traffic. So yeah. And then also with this, usually, at least for all of the USAT sanctioned ones, there's no earbuds or music at all on the bike ride. And I think you're allowed one earbud, like only one earbud on the run. Otherwise, you'll get disqualified. They should again mention those in the pre-race instructions. So that is that. Do you have anything else to add for that, Elizabeth?
For the bike traffic, so when you're gonna re-enter when you're almost about to finish biking and you're gonna re-enter the transition area for the run, there is a line, at least at most races I do, where you have to get off your bike by. So there will be volunteers saying like get off, like slow down, and prepare to dismount. So like listen to them, don't like breeze if they're telling you to slow down, then you need to slow down so you can like not crash over that line. And then yeah, there's like a dismount line, so just be on the lookout for that for when you have to get off your bike.
Yeah.
And if the race is there, I've done some courses where it's like an out and back, and just keep in mind when you're like going on that like when you're going to turn around, like just keep in mind you should probably slow down a little bit so you don't crash. So just be mindful about
Yeah.
things.
Going off of that, there is also a mount line for the bike, so you can't like get on your bike
Oh,
in
right.
transition.
Yeah.
You have to walk or run your bike out of transition. I mean, it'll be just basically right out of transition. That there'll be like a line again with volunteers that once you cross, you can get on your bike and start biking. Um, it's really easy to see, really clearly marked. Just don't get on your bike before you leave transition. Wait till you're after the line, and then just make sure you're off of your bike by the time you get to the line. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So just some faster transition tips. Like I mentioned earlier, not wearing socks helps a lot. Um, It definitely helps if you can fuel and hydrate while you're moving. For me personally, I like doing it on the bike because I'm not like, at least for like fueling and stuff, running, usually that makes me a little bit more nauseous. So I don't end up feeling as sick if I fuel while on the bike. But definitely it'll help if you don't stop and eat for a little bit. Um, I have lock laces here. Those are basically just like elastic shoelaces, so you don't have to stop and tie your shoes. I've got a bunch of extras if you're interested. Um, and then, like I mentioned earlier, leave your cap and goggles on before you're like at least halfway out of your wetsuit. Otherwise, you're probably gonna get at least partially stuck for a minute or two. So like when you're running out of the water, start taking off your wetsuit, like down to your waist, so that by the time you're in transition, you can just finish taking off your wetsuit. Um, and yeah, when you're in transition or between segments, just run. You make up a lot of time as opposed to walking. So you can see Bo here running. I think John's also running. So
It's
you'll make up a lot
crazy.
of time.
It's crazy the amount of people I've seen in races that are just like walking from, and I'm like, you're in a race, run, run, run. Like I know it's a transition, but like it does make a difference. So run.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. And then obviously the best part after the race, make sure to take pictures or have somebody taking pictures. Sometimes you get a race where you don't get any pictures. It's a little disappointing because there's not really any proof that you did it. So taking pictures is really great. A lot of times they'll be really terrible, but occasionally you get some really good race photos. Really important, make sure to stretch. Um, Especially for endurance athletes, injuries happen all the time. So making sure to stretch afterwards is really important. Um, Usually there's post-race food for athletes. There'll be like a tent or a line or something. You can only go through the line once, I think, usually. So keep that in mind, kind of pile your plate as high as you can. Um, and then I think probably about half the races have like a massage table or something where you can go get a quick massage, work out any kinks that you need worked out. That's really nice. Anytime it's there, I always get in line. Um, and then if you think that you place in your age group at all, or just want to watch award ceremony, that's going to be probably a little bit later, after all the races finish. And of course, pack up transition, and make sure to take it easy, kind of relax. You finish the race. Don't need anything else to prove at this moment. So yeah. Anything to add about that, Elizabeth?
I don't think so. No.
All right. And then final slide. I think, yeah, final slide. Make sure to just like I said, injury prevention. So warm up and cool down. Those are really important. Stretch and mobility. All of these things are really important. Especially don't be stupid. That is, I don't think I can say anything more about that. Just, yeah. And then here's an example of me getting a massage after a race. Highly recommend.
Everything on
Yeah,
this slide should not just be during the race. This should be before your training session. So you should warm up and cool down after or like before like your training sessions or like before track on Sunday, before spin, stretch and mobility. It's yeah, you're young now, but in 10 years, you
yeah,
won't feel the same. So just keeping like even like if it's just like 5 or 10 minutes each day or after each training session, that can go a long way. Some areas that I really like to focus on, especially for a lot of running and biking, if you like have limited time, I'd recommend hitting your hip flexors. That's a big one.
for
um,
sure.
the outside of your hips, your quads. Oftentimes tight quads will lead to tight hip flexors or vice versa because they're connected, right? And probably like your calves and your shins for running. Um, I'd really focus on those if you're wanting to stretch or foam roll. Regular strength and conditioning is pretty important too. Um, if anyone's interested, I know a lot of different like free resources for strength and conditioning that really just helps your body like adjust to the load that you're like asking of it. Um, Again, good areas to make sure are strong are like your quads, your abductors, so the outside of your hips, and then I guess for swimming, like your shoulders and your lats. Those are probably the most common overuse injuries that I've dealt with or heard other people dealing with.
Yeah,
Sleep is really important too for injury prevention. If you're not taking care of your body and letting it rest, you're not going to see the benefits of your training. So making sure to get enough sleep just on a consistent basis is great. And then adequate nutrition and hydration. It's kind of I don't really exactly know how it works. Um, I've read some papers or listened to things a while ago, but basically like if you're not adequately fueled or hydrated, that increases your risk for injury. Again, I don't exactly know the mechanism for that, but just making sure you're on top of nutrition and hydration is really good for injury prevention and just feeling your best. And yeah, don't be stupid. There's not really much more I can say
yeah.
about that.
All right, well, that brings us to the end of the presentation. That was very long. We tried to go over like any aspect that we could think of. So are there any questions at all?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay.
Um, this is probably a stupid question, but like, how does transitioning from the water, from swimming to the bike work? Because you keep talking about taking off the wetsuit. So like,
Yeah,
how does that work?
so usually, so kind of like for the swim, you're gonna do like one or two loops, and then usually there's gonna be like a big kind of blow up archway. Um, like usually you'll see them at like 5Ks or whatever. It's gonna be really visible. So you're gonna basically when you're done with however many laps you need to do for the swimming, you're gonna shoot for that. This is specifically for open water swimming. It's a little bit different for pools, like indoor like pool swims, which I'll touch on at the end. I'm not as certain about those. But as far as like outdoor triathlons and stuff, you're gonna shoot for the wherever the clearly marked swim like exit the water is. And then usually you're probably gonna have to run up a hill a little bit, just getting up from the lake. But it'll be really well marked. There's going to be probably some sort of rope or barrier that's kind of making a like chute or pathway all the way over transition. So you're just gonna follow that all the way until you get into transition. Um, if you have a
There's usually
wetsuit,
there's usually volunteers too to tell you like where to go.
yeah, for sure. If you have a wetsuit, this is a great place to start like unzipping down the back, taking your arms out of the sleeves, all while you're kind of jogging into transition. So that by the time you get like, sometimes it's really far. I've had a few races that it's like really annoying how far transition is from the water. Other races, transition is really close to the water's edge, so it's not as big of a deal. Um, but that'll just depend, that'll just vary race to race. So yeah, just as you get out of the water, if you're wearing a wetsuit, try to strip off the top half of it while you're running. Take off your cap and goggles once you're halfway out of the wetsuit, and then follow the path to transition. Get your bike, and then exit transition on the bike course. Does that answer your question, Noah?
I mean, yeah, I guess the questions were based on that. Like if you're taking off the wetsuit, I'm assuming you have something under the wetsuit. Like
Oh yeah,
what are
so
you wearing under the
Oh, yeah.
what are you wearing? It's a more physical problem than I'm like what are you wearing?
yeah, so me personally, because I do a lot of races, you can see like in this picture, I'm wearing a like a onesie basically. Um, I know that that's not the name of it, but
It's a tri suit.
yeah, it's a tri-suit. But basically, that's all I wear during my race. I throw in a wetsuit over it for the beginning, but I don't change during my race. I'll go back. I've got a picture somewhere in here of like one of my really early races. Oh, maybe. Oh, I guess I don't. But basically, like sometimes I'll race in something like this. Or I guess I used to. This was probably like 5 years ago before I got a tri suit. So like once, I mean, I'll have some sort of swimsuit for the swim. So either a Speedo or a jammer or something, whatever you want to swim in. And then once you get to the bike, if you're just in a swimsuit, depending on the temperature, you might want to throw on a shirt or a jacket of some sort, maybe throw on some pants. Um, and then um, once you get off the bike, if you don't have a bib belt, you're going to need to either be already wearing your race bib or throw on a shirt with your race bib attached to it. I definitely recommend not biking with your race bib attached. At least personally, the race bib gets really, really loud when it's like hitting the wind, and it catches the air. So, in my personal opinion, it's really annoying to bike with my race bib. I've done it before, but don't really recommend that. So, if you have the option, try to have a shirt with your race bib or a belt that you can stick on right before starting the run. But yeah, you're gonna be wearing clothes the whole time, Noah.
That's
Do
why I said it sounds
triathlon.
like a stupid question.
No,
That's
no,
why I prefaced it. Yeah.
no. I mean, I'm pretty sure I asked that exact same question when I was first starting. So it's really not stupid, but it's like something that I obviously overlooked for this presentation. So thank you for asking it.
If you do have the funds to afford a tri suit or you're able to borrow one from someone, I'd recommend.
They're really great.
It makes it easier, like a lot easier.
Yeah. Okay, Broader, Alex, do you have any questions?
I think I'm all good.
Sweet.
Solid. Thanks, guys.
Alrighty, I will stop recording if I can figure out
Wait,
how.
Jaren, I got a question real quick.
Yeah, go ahead,
Actually,
Alex.
does your tri bike have bike clips on it?
I can add clips if you want, but right now I have bucket pedals on it.
No, I was gonna ask because I don't have bike shoes, so
Yeah, no,
I wouldn't
I
wanna,
have
okay,
bike clips because I mean I have bucket pedals for you, so
cool.
yeah.
Wait, Jaron, do you race on your gravel